we are ready to get started with week 6 of the Algor-WIN program, our real estate business growth system. As a reminder, you can download your workbook at lairrealty.com/Algor-WIN as well. You can catch up on all the previous classes. So this is our 6th program. You can go catch up on weeks 1 through 5 at lairrealty.com/12-week Algor-WIN. And this week we are covering the seller appointment. So last week we had fun covering what to do when we have a new buyer. Well, this week we have a checklist manifesto for when we have a new seller appointment. So we have a checklist of certain things we're going to do. As a reminder, if you download the PDF version of the Algor-WIN booklet, the cool thing about the downloadable version, many of you guys have the print version, like the professional version of Algor-WIN that looks kind of like this. But the print version has all kinds of clickable links, which you might want to check out. So including the very beginning of the PDF version, which you can find at lairrealty.com/Algor-WIN. Right at the beginning in the table of contents, you can kind of click through to the pages you want to visit. But also there's embedded links to websites and documents, etc., throughout the booklet. Okay, let's talk about the seller checklist. I want to remind everybody as well that as you're going through the program, it's really important to make sure you continue to track your results. Sometimes it's easy to fall off and stop tracking everything, but tracking, just when I say track results, there's a reason why we're tracking each week which items we're doing from each of these checklists, from the yearly checklist to the monthly checklist to the weekly checklist to the new buyer, the new seller, the new listing, and people appreciation event checklist. So we don't want you to be focused on how many listings did you get. We want you to really be focused on, are you completing the tasks? Because that's where all the results will come. Don't worry about the results, how many listings you have or how many buyers you're working with. That doesn't matter right now. We're just focused how many items on the checklist are getting completed. So this week we have our seller checklist and we have 9 items. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. As you guys know by now, all the checklists have 9 items that need to get completed, except for the annual or yearly checklist, which has 12 items. But all the other checklists just have 9 items. And each box on this represents 1 item in the checklist, but we have lots of notes embedded into each box. So today we're going to focus on the seller appointment checklist. Hopefully, many of you, if you're Lair agents, you're getting seller appointments from your Fellow, which is the new CRM that many of you have converted to, because that whole CRM is designed to get you listing appointments. So this will come in super handy today as we talk about what are the steps we take once we have a seller that is potentially interested in selling their home. So let's start by digging into the 9 items. First one is our seller questionnaire. So we said this last week as well, that for buyers, we should have a buyer intake form so that when we're working with a new buyer, we can get as detailed and granular as possible as to what that buyer is looking for, because that makes us more efficient in our business. We need to be doing the same thing with sellers. So when we have a new seller appointment, we want to get very granular and get a lot of information completed from that seller. So let's take a look. This is one of the areas where we added a new document. We added 4 or 5 new documents to Lair Agent Services, all under marketing, branding, and presentations, all under guides, presentations, brochures. All of these are in Canva templates. So once you open it, it becomes your version of the item that you've opened. So you can customize it, add your logo, add your photo, your contact information, and feel free to change the questions. So we have created a selling your home workbook, and this is really your seller intake form, just like the buyer intake form of last week. So the seller questionnaire is a checklist manifesto for gathering relevant information from your seller. From the sellers, some of the things that we cover here, and I want you to understand why we're asking. We're not just randomly asking a whole bunch of questions on the seller questionnaire, because some of you will say, I don't need a seller questionnaire. I'm going to show up at the house and gather all the information. But there's other information on this questionnaire. So number one, we're going to find out from the seller's perspective, what is the condition of the property? Because we all know we're going to have our own perspective of the condition of the property, but it's kind of important to know, what does the seller think the condition of their property is? We also are going to find out, is the seller current on mortgage payments? It's much easier to ask this in a form than actually having a conversation. So we're going to ask them to fill out the seller questionnaire. I think it's best if they fill it out. It's not you asking the questions and answering it for them, but letting the seller actually fill it out. So you can send this to them as a PDF. I'm also going to show you how to turn it into a fillable PDF. So you can send it to them and they can just type in the answers. We're also going to find out from the seller questionnaire the reason that they're selling. So we can get an idea, are they like super serious about selling? Is there a sense of urgency? So some of the things that we want to take a look at within the questionnaire, by the way, it's all custom. So you can go in, this is a Canva template, so you can change your own questionnaire. But number one, we want to find out, like, what are the top three things they love most about their home? Because probably there's a good chance that the next buyer who comes through the property is going to love it for many of the same reasons. So we want them to tell us, what do they love most about the property, some of their best memories, favorite spot to hang out in their home, and why. We're going to utilize this information to market the property. And we're going to utilize this when we're meeting with or hosting an open house, for example. We could say, oh, one of the things that these homeowners loved about the property was having cookouts in their backyard because it's so private. So this information is going to come in handy when you're preparing your marketing pieces. Next, this does not replace a property disclosure. So in many states, property disclosure is required by law. By the way, even where it's not required by law, such as in Massachusetts, still highly recommend a seller disclosure, because number one, I'll make an argument in a minute that it actually protects your seller. Sometimes agents say, I don't ask my seller to sign that because I don't want them to open themselves up for liability. Anytime you are trying to not, quote, open your seller up to liability, you are opening yourself up to liability. So getting the property disclosure, which this is different. This is a form of, we're just collecting data here, but I'll make an argument at the end of today when we talk about the listing forms on why you should get a seller disclosure, even if it's not mandated by law. But anyways, this is going to help us as well with pricing the property. Flooring, paint, kitchen, like we want to know how old stuff is on the interior of the property. As well, we want to get information on the exterior of the property. You guys in Florida know how important the age of the roof is. Like, the age of the roof can make or break a deal. If you're in Florida and you have a listing and your roof is 8 years old on that listing, you've got a major problem. Even if the roof is in perfect condition, beautiful, beautiful, perfect roof, you've got a major problem with an 8-year-old roof. So these are the things that here you can identify right off the top. A potential conversation you might have to have if this seller says, hey, my roof's 9 years old in Florida. You need to have a conversation like, can you replace it? And if not, that has to be reflected in the price, but other things as well. So this is like creates clarity for you. So this is all part of the seller disclosure. I also like this page that we created. What stays and what goes? Like, what are the things the seller does not really want to take with them? Maybe it's their washer and dryer and stuff like that. All of that is negotiation tools. So I always say, like, let's say the seller wants to leave everything. I'm going to leave my lawnmower. I'm going to leave my washer and dryer. I don't want anything. I still don't think you put that into your listing when you're marketing it, because that's a negotiation tool down the road when you're negotiating price. You could say, hey, we're not going to come down that amount in price. We'll come down a little bit, but then the seller is offered to throw in the washer and dryer and the lawnmower, stuff like that. So find out what stays, what goes. We're going to get showing and open house preferences. So here we're asking the seller, like, what days are best for open houses? What kind do you want people to wear shoe coverings when they come in the house? Or how do you want showings handled? And this is also where we can have a discussion about pets. If they have pets in the house, what happens during those showings? Also, we're going to start collecting information for the new owners so that we have lots of information, especially when we're doing open houses. We can answer all kinds of questions, from what day is trash pickup day to who is the utility provider for the property. Also, we have a page here for community amenities. Your neighborhood favorites. Again, this comes down to marketing the property. What is the seller's favorite bakery in the area, their favorite coffee shop, their favorite park, their favorite gym or fitness studio? And they get to also list some of the things they just love about their neighborhood. All of this is going to be super helpful when you are hosting an open house for the property. Okay, so all of that you can download over at Layer Agent Services. Of course, go in and make it your own. But then also, I would take it one step further and I would make it a fillable PDF form, so that you basically go into Canva, you customize your entire seller intake form exactly with all the questions you want to gather from the seller. Then you go to DocFly, DOCFLY, it's a free product. You go in, you upload the entire document, which I think is 6 pages, and then you make these little fields so that they can go add like their name, their phone number. It allows them, so it makes it so you can send the seller a link once you have the appointment and say, I want to collect some initial data. So that all of this information is going to help me, number one, market the property, but also properly price the property. So you send them a link and they'll be able to type in all the answers and save it and then send it back to you in a nice printed format. As well, some agents use Google Forms. They create something very similar. You can do it in Google Forms as well. But I like that this one is pretty. Sometimes the Google form is not as aesthetically pleasing as like a marketing piece, like this 6-page booklet. So I like the booklet, but I also think you need to make it very easy that somebody can just type in the answers if they want to do it that way. And you can do that with DocFly. So why do we want this seller questionnaire? Number one, we are in the business of creating clarity. So we've said this all along. When we create clarity for people, we infuse high vibration, good energy into everything we do. This squiggly ball is what a real estate transaction looks and feels like to buyers and sellers right from the beginning. There are so many unknowns, there's so much uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people extremely uncomfortable because uncertainty creates fear. So the seller questionnaire is in the process of meeting a seller for the first time. We are beginning to untangle the ball of questions and uncertainty that they have, creating clarity and infusing high vibration into our transaction. Next, we are positioning ourselves. So I've talked about this in almost every session of the Algor-WIN program. All of these systems we create position us as compared to every other real estate agent. One of the biggest challenges we have in our careers is that there's millions of us, millions and millions. And to the consumer, how do they know what makes a great real estate agent and what every real estate agent or not so great real estate agent does? So we want to be positioning ourselves in every conversation, every step of the way. So starting with a seller disclose or a seller intake form, we are already beginning to position ourselves, because imagine that they've called two other real estate agents who haven't asked for anything yet. Now they're like, okay, why is this one agent taking these extra steps and this other real estate agent hasn't even asked me anything about the property, why I like the property, why I bought the property. They haven't asked me about the age of anything in the property. So you're differentiating yourself. You are positioning yourself to stand out. Number three, this document, this seller questionnaire, is a tool in your toolbox. So you're going to be developing rapport with this seller. You're going to be pricing the property, figuring out best options for marketing the property. You are going to be determining negotiating strategies on this property. This document is a tool in your toolbox that most real estate agents don't have, because most real estate agents are not getting a seller questionnaire filled out. So they don't know maybe the intentions of how quickly or the urgency. They don't know why this seller bought the property, which could be the same reason why the next buyer is going to buy the property. So the agent that doesn't get this information is depriving their toolbox of important tools. And then I want you to think of always in your business, how do you apply sunscreen to your business? In other words, how do you protect the client? How do you protect you? And how do you protect the brokerage? So one of the ways we do that is by gathering as much data as possible, keeping all that data in writing. So this seller questionnaire is beginning to gather data and information. And all of that information is going to allow you to, number one, better protect your seller, but also protect your real estate license and the brokerage license. Okay, step two of our listing, we have due diligence to do. We have to, for example, at a very minimum, let's make sure that the person who says they own the property owns the property. I've seen it happen where they don't actually own the property, or they own the property, but somebody else owns the property too. Your listing agreement is no good if you've only gotten one signature and two or three people own the property. So let's start there with like a deed, just to make sure who owns the property. But there's so much more we can do to remember. All of this due diligence protects the seller, it protects you, it protects the brokerage. So we want to see the deed, the mortgage, a tax card, just to see what the taxes are, condo documents, have permits been pulled for any work that has been done in the property. If it was built prior to 1978, we know we have lead paint disclosures. Also, sometimes as simple as just Googling an address, you can learn a lot. We had an agent that last year didn't realize a house had been burnt down and rebuilt because they had not done just a simple Google search would have brought up newspaper articles about it. But go out, drive by the area. There's so much to know about a particular property or neighborhood. I always tell people when I moved into my house 12 years ago, the first night I was here, there was like this loud rumbling sound. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I literally have a train track like in my backyard, not literally in my backyard, but almost. And I had no idea, but that would I look at it, it's on me. I should have done my own due diligence. But also, that could have been something that the real estate agent said, hey, just so you know, there's a train that comes by. It's a commuter rail. It goes by 4 or 5 times a day. So that's the kind of due diligence we're talking about. You don't want somebody to move into a property and feel disappointed after they move in. And all of this due diligence protects the seller as well. It just makes sure that um, that the transaction's going to go smoothly. Truly, due diligence is the backbone of a successful real estate transaction. It ensures that the buyer and sellers are making informed, risk-free decisions. So it involves thoroughly investigating all aspects of a property before closing to avoid costly surprises, legal issues, or financial losses. And while, yes, you should do all this before closing, you really should do it before you even go on the listing appointment, in my opinion. When you show up at the listing appointment, you should have a folder of all the due diligence you've done on the property already so that you can ask questions if there's something that you're not sure of. It protects against legal and financial risk. So you don't want to have lawsuits after the transaction closes. It allows you to verify like zoning, permits, what kind of restrictions are there on a property. It prevents all kinds of closing problems. Like, for example, is the property in a flood zone? If the property's in a flood zone, we know that the buyer may potentially have an issue buying the property because it's going to increase the price of insurance for the property. So that's something we should know before we even go on a listing appointment. All this is public information. So it's putting the onus on the real estate agent to do some legwork up front so that we can prevent potential problems or disasters down the road. Also, all the due diligence you do, it protects your seller, but it also protects the buyer, it protects the listing agent, you, and it protects the brokerage. So one of your jobs is to reduce legal exposure to liability. You want to reduce transaction delays, reduce your reputational risk, and reduce commission disputes down the road. All of this, because imagine that um, a buyer backs out at the last minute because they didn't know something. They didn't know that permits were not pulled for this particular piece of the addition that was put on the property. And so they back out at the last second. Well, maybe the buyer agent then says, hey, that seller still owes a commission to us because I brought a ready, willing, and able buyer, but you didn't disclose properly. So that real estate agent can still say, I'm due a commission on a transaction. We want to avoid all of that mess. And how we avoid it is making sure we're doing proper due diligence. Number 3, the market analysis. Not going to spend a ton of time today going over how to do a market analysis, but this is a pretty important and big piece of your job. In fact, in the Algor-WIN booklet, we have several pages dedicated to how to do a market analysis. The reason we put that in there, I've been in the business now for 25 years, and back when I got into the business, there was no automated software that figured out a property value for you. And I think that is the safer way to figure out a value on a property, that you actually go in and determine, you dig through MLS and find properties that are most like the property that you are potentially going to list, and that you come up with the value, and then you use the automated valuation tools like Cloud CMA, RPR, Toolkit CMA, to then verify that your number is correct. That is a true professional. It is not like just typing in an address and saying, oh, RPR says my value is $500,000. No, it's you doing the legwork to determine that the value is 500,000 and then using the automated valuation tools to double check your work. By the way, in case you guys want to try this, we have a comparable worksheet you can download now at lairagentservices.com. Go to guides, presentations, brochures, and basically it's just a worksheet for you to kind of spell everything out. So you take your main property at the top, and then you find like some sold comparables, active comparables, pending comparables. Also, sometimes agents add like expired, so say 3 expired listings to make sure you're not going too high on price. But it gives you a way so you can start to determine. It's kind of fun to see, like, would I come up with a value close to what the automated valuation models are going to come up with? And if the answer is no, what is the difference? What is it that that AVM tool found that I didn't find? This makes you a true professional. So if you go into the Algor-WIN booklet, you will see, I think it's starts on page 68 of the Algor-WIN booklet. We actually walk you through how to 10 steps to doing a CMA on a property without the automated valuation tools. By the way, there is a note in here in your booklet on page 69, I believe. Yeah, 69. That your CMA skills can also get you more clients. So I don't want you guys to lose sight of this. Many of you may have heard of a CMA a day program, where a lot of high performing agents builds their businesses each year by focusing on doing 1 CMA a day. And what they do is they find people to do CMAs for. So even if you don't have a listing or a potential listing coming on the market, you go do a CMA for somebody. Now, with the automated valuation tools out there, it takes 5 minutes to do it. So maybe maybe for just a random CMA that you're doing, you're not going to sit and find all the comparables. I think you should do all this legwork if you have an actual seller appointment. But once a day, imagine doing a CMA, for example, on your next door neighbor's house, and you pull all the comps and determine what their house is worth. And you use one of the tools like RPR, Cloud CMA, Toolkit CMA, to create a nice booklet with their value. And you text them and say, hey, Joe, it's your next door neighbor, Stacey. I was playing around with new technology I have to determine values on a property, and I created a CMA, a market analysis on your property. Could I drop it off for you? If you do this once a day, even for people who are not expecting it, you will start to get listing appointments from it, because you are creating awareness for people that might not realize that they have so much equity in their property. And it's an awesome way to break out of your shell, to get out and talk to people, to practice doing a CMA. So think about the CMA a day approach to building your business. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that within the Algor-WIN book. But then from there, it goes through 10 steps to creating a market analysis on a property. And this is not using the AVM, like an automated valuation model. It's you actually going into MLS and doing the legwork. So I'm not going to go through all of this. You guys can go through and play with this as you have some time and see, maybe even start with your own house and do a market analysis. You then need to also be able to answer questions for agents. What's the difference between a comparative market analysis and an appraisal? Also, I'd say you also should be able to answer the question around an AVM, an automated valuation model. Many of you have gone through our fellow training for our new CRM platform. Every day, you should be going into your fellow, logging into fellow, looking to see if anybody is clicking through. Basically, the system makes it easy because you can sort by lead score. The higher the lead score, the better. That means the person is really engaging with the automated valuation model. What you should be doing is calling anybody that is clicking through your AVMs on the fellow CRM, and you call the person and say, hey, I noticed that you were looking at the automated valuation of your property. What do you think of the price? Is it too high? Is it too low? Or is it just right? Because oftentimes AVMs are not super accurate. It doesn't really matter what the AVM says. What matters is that you're calling and starting a conversation with the client. Okay, so this is just common questions about preparing a market analysis. And one other piece to check out, many of you, if you're a layer agent, you're probably using the Real Scout platform. Real Scout, if you go in and play with that, has this cool test the market pricing data. And if you go into your Real Scout, there's a place there called Test the Market. And if you are going on a CMA for a property, you can put in the property area, the address, and what the price range is, and it shows you how many buyers are looking right now in that price range. And by the way, you can it's meant to be used as a tool to get the seller to a reasonable price. So what they see under the test the market in Real Scout is, hey, if you price it at 500,000, there's going to be this many buyers. But if we get this price down to 480, we have a way bigger buyer pool. So all of that's tools existing for you right now if you're using the Real Scout platform. I also really like this to include, this is in our listing presentations as well, but just showing the how price impacts visibility. In other words, the lower you go in price on a property, the more eyeballs you'll get on that home. So that's why sometimes real estate agents price super low to create a bidding war. They know the lower they go, the more buyer eyeballs they're getting on the property, and the more buyer eyeballs on that property, the more offers they're going to get. So we have a nice little image that we include in our listing presentation here. Okay, next up, number 4, the seller appointment checklist. Number 4 is super important to be extremely mindful of the vibration of words. Everything we do in our business will come down to the energy we bring to a transaction. And all of us, I've said this before, are transmitters of energy. We receive energy and we transmit energy out into the world. Oftentimes, the agents who seem to be doing all the right things in their business, they are executing like crazy on everything and still don't have the results they wish for. It is a misalignment of energy somewhere in their business. So we have to work with those agents to figure out, like, where is the bad energy coming in, and where does energy, like, what creates energy? Well, first of all, our thoughts create energy. Our intent creates energy. Words our energy. So there are things we can do to increase our success rate in real estate. And one of them is to really focus on the vibration of the words we use to make sure we're giving ourselves and our clients the best chances for success by infusing the transaction with high vibration. So words carry energy and can shape emotions, confidence, and decisions of your sellers. It is important to use high vibration words because that creates a positive, reassuring, and confident experience for clients, making them more likely to trust you, to feel at ease, and confidently move forward with their home sale. Be intentional with words. There are so many weak words in the language. If you guys read my Mindful Monday, I believe the Mindful Monday I've been working on for today is really about words. And many of my Mindful Mondays focus on words because there's so much weak language and weak words out there. And we speak all day long. It takes like concentration and awareness to understand when we're using words that are not helping us. So when a seller unconsciously hears uncertain, weak, or negative language, it will create hesitation and doubt. They won't even know what it is. They won't know why they feel uncertain with you, but they will. And they will end up with a real estate agent that is projecting strong, certain language. So let's talk about all of these are listed on page 58 of the Algor-WIN book. And this is just some of them. Literally, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Every word has a high or low vibration. So first of all, let's talk about a couple of the words that have super low vibration within our business. Number one, contract. Nobody likes the contract. People are okay with an agreement. Agreement is a higher vibration than contract. So let's get the word contract out of our vernacular when we're doing a transaction. Also, get rid of the words, I don't like commission or anything around price. Everything that when somebody hires us, they're investing in us. They're not paying a commission for our services. They're investing in our knowledge and negotiating skills. They're investing in us. Same with when they're buying a house. They're not like just randomly paying out an expense. They're investing in real estate. I don't like the word down payment. I think you could say initial investment in the property is whatever, $1,000. I also, certain words that I feel are low vibration is never, 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 never use the word problem. There's no problems in our business. Everything is an opportunity. I even think the word challenge is better than problem. But nobody wants to hear problem. Like when people hear the word problem, many people, including myself, like you feel a pit in your stomach when somebody says, hey, we have a problem. I feel a pit in my stomach when somebody says that. Instead, call your customer and say, hey, we have an opportunity here. Because really every problem is an opportunity. So you're just jumping it. You're just saying, all right, we're going right to the opportunity piece of this. And I also think challenge is okay. I think I would still like opportunity better than challenge. But the point of all this is to be super cognizant of the words you're using. By the way, I think a fun place to evaluate some of the words, like when you write an email, run it through ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, are there any low vibration words within this communication I'm about to make. And I promise you, it tells you. It says, yes, eliminate the word contract and replace it with agreement. Eliminate the word purchase price and add the word investment. So you have to be super cognizant of the words you use because they matter. Okay, next up, marketing plan, number 5 of the 9 items you're going to do with the seller. Super interesting. I reached out recently just to 10 random agents and asked what are the items that they provide at a listing presentation. I asked about like the process and stuff like that. And 7 out of 10 did not include a marketing plan within their presentation. They do all these awesome things. They have a presentation, they give a CMA, a market analysis, but there's no actual document that says marketing plan at the top. So what's interesting is that that's one of the main reasons why consumers hire us, is because they want a marketing plan for their property. So we have one for you. So don't panic. We've already done all the legwork for you, and you can go in and customize this. But if you go to lairagentservices.com, head down to marketing and branding, head down to guides, presentations, brochures. This is for all of you. You don't have to be a Lair agent. You can go in and utilize all these awesome pieces. Go to the 20-point marketing plan. This is meant for you to make your own. So you will customize it to what you think is best for your business. The National Association of Realtors does a survey each year. And one of the questions they ask is, what are the top 3 reasons that you hire a real estate agent? And what sellers say is the top 3 reasons they hire a real estate agent is pricing expertise, because they want the maximum amount for their property. Number 2, marketing and exposure. So they're actually hiring us to market the property, and 7 out of the 10 agents I spoke to don't even hand the person a marketing plan, a piece of paper that says at the top, here's what I'm going to do. By the way, those agents, I'm sure, still talk about all the stuff they're going to do, but why not have like the document that says, here is the plan, because it is about positioning yourself. And then number 3, sellers hire real estate agents to protect themselves. They're worried that they are going to do something that could hurt themselves by not filling out paperwork correctly or not disclosing properly. So the third reason why they hire real estate agents is for their own protection. So what do we put into a marketing plan? Number 1, I think should be right at the top of the list, is professional photography. First impressions matter, and for most buyers, that first impression happens online. So professional photography is not an expense to your business. It is an investment in your business, and it pays off by helping you attract more buyers, sell a home faster, and it elevates your brand. Homes with professional, this is all from National Association of Realtors surveys. Professional photography studies show that listings sell for $3,000 to $11,000 more if they have professional photography, because more clicks equals more offers. Photography gives the listing a competitive advantage. So this little video right here is how people look at real estate. Just like my daughter watches YouTube videos like this, people who are shopping real estate are scrolling super fast. And if a listing has dark, blurry, or unappealing photos, they just skip it. It gets skipped. So also, your professional photography is your reputation. Poor listing photos damage your reputation because it makes you look unprofessional or inexperienced or lazy. Don't be perceived as the agent who cuts corners. By the way, if you absolutely must cut corners, which I hope you don't, because I do think professional photography is a minimum standard for a great real estate agent. If you must cut corners, at least use the Exposio app. Exposio is an app where you could take your iPhone photos or your Android photos and it re-exposes the photo to make them look more like professional photography, so they're not dark and blurry. Exposio, basically you upload all your property photos and then you select the ones you want to pay for the re-exposure on, and it's around $1 per photo. Other items to go into your marketing plan. Pay-per-click. Ooh, I see a typo on my slides. Okay. Pay-per-click ads. At Lair, we use Boost by HomeSpotter, so we automatically do 7 days of pay-per-click advertising for you. So at Lair, just put this right into your marketing plan. You don't have to do anything else. We're already doing it for you. Any social media that you're doing on your own, put it into your marketing plan. You're going to put how you're going to expose their listing through posts and video across different social media channels. Your marketing plan for your open house strategy. So you're going to host open houses, but in our marketing plan, we're not going to just say, I'm going to host an open house. Every real estate agent says that. And you're not every real estate agent. So you're actually going to attach, as part of your marketing plan, your open house strategy. Guess what? We already did it for you. So if you head over to Lair Agent Services and go to the marketing materials, any agent can open this and of course customize it yourself so that it's yours. But this is your 4-page open house strategy. And you're going to attach this and include it on your marketing plan to say, these are all the things I do to make sure we have an exceptional open house on your property. Also, email broker blasts. Oftentimes agents say, hey, how come other real estate agents can send me a blast of their new listing? By the way, you guys can build lists and do that. The reason we don't do it as a company is because if somebody spam blocks an email, you can't send to them anymore. So there's 2 ways to send email broker blasts. Number one, I'll say 3 ways actually. Number one is through your MLS. So many of the MLSs will allow you to do a broker blast of your new listing to real estate agents who have a buyer looking in that price range in that area. Number 2, you can and should, in my opinion, start to build your own email list of agents within your marketplace so that when you get a new listing, you could send out an email blast. Third, you can use email broker blast at zipyourflyer.com. This company will do it all for you. The design, everything. And they'll send it out to all the agents in your marketplace, and you pay based on how many people it targets. It's not expensive. It's under $100 to target like 2,000 real estate agents in your marketplace. So I'd include that on my marketing plan as well. Just listed mailers. I'm a huge fan of MLSmailings.com because it hooks directly to your MLS. So it's a set it and forget it system. Basically, for $127, you can send a jumbo postcard of your new listing to 100 houses within the area of your listing. So I would add that to my marketing plan. Other ideas for marketing plans, some of you guys do staging or virtual staging for your listings. That should be in your marketing plan. Sometimes sellers have to do work on the property prior to getting the house ready. And sometimes you guys as agents are kind of coaching them on what work to do. There's a company called Curb.io that will actually finance and actually do all the repairs. You'll still get the listing. They work with you as the listing agent, but let's say you have somebody that has a house that if they could just spend $20,000, they'd get like $80,000 in additional equity. Then Curb.io is how to do it. They come in and do all the repairs. And still the seller agrees to list the property once the property is with you, complete. Other ideas for marketing, if you have a luxury listing, I'm a big fan of Lux VT. This is for like million and up listings, but if you want to have your listing featured in like the Wall Street Journal online, things like that, then Lux VT has a product really geared just towards marketing a luxury listing, and they have a program where you can pay them outside, like at the closing. So every item on the marketing plan positions you as different than the average real estate agent. That's the whole point of having the marketing plan. Number 6, the seller presentation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but please know that we have listing presentations for you at lairagentservices.com. Scroll down to marketing, branding, and presentations. We have several to choose from. The only caveat I want to tell you guys, like we have one that if you like high performance homes and green homes, stuff like that, we have a high performance home listing presentation. We have a regular listing presentation. I just want to make sure that you always make sure that within every listing presentation, there's a piece where you are making a promise as to what fiduciary capacity you have in representing the seller, and that fiduciary capacity is different in different states. So I always say, like in Florida, we're typically we are transaction agents in Florida, meaning there's very little fiduciary responsibility for our agents in Florida, which is super typical in the Florida market. So you just, on your listing presentation, you have to be careful that you're not over promising your fiduciary responsibilities. A couple things about the seller presentation. Number 1, it positions you as an expert. It creates clarity. Also, sellers, we don't know what matters to a seller. So it's important. Your listing presentation is a checklist manifesto in and of itself. Really quick, I know we're already almost out of time. I always share the story. I have an agent in Billerica, Massachusetts. Of all the agents I've known in all 25 years of doing business, this agent literally spends probably 20 to 30 hours a week just doing community and charity work. That is her passion in life, community and charity work. And she's also a really good real estate agent. Anyways, 5 years ago, she called me all upset because she went on a listing appointment and didn't get the listing. And she called the seller and said, could I ask what I could have done differently, just so I know for the future, like, why did you choose the other real estate agent over me? And they said, oh, because the other real estate agent does a lot of work, does a charity run for the Susan G. Komen. Every year she runs for Susan G. Komen, and that is close to my heart. My agent does a billion other things for like cancer walks, organizes cancer walks, has done the Jimmy Fund walk for 30 years straight. So I said to the agent, I'm like, do you talk about your charity work in your listing presentation? And she said, no, I just do it because I love to do it. So the point is, if you're not talking about it, it's the same as not doing it at all. So at least put a slide in. I said, at a minimum, just put a little slide in your presentation for next time that says, hey, just so you know, this is some of the stuff I do. I do it because I love it, but wanted to let you know the stuff I'm passionate about. So just think of this. Your listing presentation is your checklist manifesto. So when something goes wrong, like you lose a listing because you didn't talk about the charity work you do, just go back and redo your presentation so you have a slide in there that at least talks about it. Because the whole point is we do not know what is going to resonate with the seller. So let's just put a little bit of everything into the presentation, talk about all the stuff we do, but also let's talk about some of the stuff that might matter to them, like the charitable initiatives we do. Number 7, the listing and contract forms. As you can see, I put a note here because if you read number 7, I created the Algor-WIN book before all the changes to before all the changes in August of last year. So one of the things I used to say to agents is pre-fill in everything on your listing contract, because we don't want it to make it look like it's all negotiable. I take all that back, because now the whole point of all the changes with the National Association of Realtors is that we have to make sure the consumer knows that commission is negotiable. So you could still fill out everything else, like have their name and their address and fill out 99% of the document, but it has to be clear. By the way, all the contracts are clear anyways. All of the contracts have in big writing right in the contract that the listing commission is negotiable. But a couple things about listing forms and listing contracts. We don't want to be the person that just hands somebody like a bunch of documents and says sign here. The listing contracts is a way for us to stand out from all the other real estate agents. We want to be the agent who simplifies everything and protects the seller. So the biggest tool you have when it comes to the forms is transparency. So transparency is the best way to protect a seller. Not all people believe this. Most people think like, oh, I can't tell anybody this. I can't tell the person that the front yard floods in the spring. First of all, that's illegal, but also like that does not protect the seller. Hiding something from a potential buyer does not protect the seller. Transparency is the protection tool. We want to minimize the risk of buyers coming back with legal claims after the closing, and we want to reduce surprises. We want to make sure that everybody knows everything up front. Transparency is a tool. By the way, transparency is intent. So when you try to cover up something in a transaction, that is bad intent, and that is a bad vibration. It is a low vibration. But transparency, saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know the property is not perfect, but most properties aren't perfect. So we're going to let the potential buyers know what are the things that might be wrong with the property. That the roof is 8 years old. We're going to let them know all the stuff up front, that the property is in a flood zone, because all of that transparency is good intent, which is a high vibration energy. It'll all work out better for your seller when you work from place of transparency. Every property has different disclosures. Every state has different disclosures, but instead of just handing the packet of disclosures, be the agent that highlights stuff and sits down and breaks down everything for them so that it's simple. Also, as we know, as part of all of our documents now, we discuss the payment of buyer agent fees. I think I know that by a seller potentially being willing to pay a buyer agent fee, that they increase their own buyer pool. That's the experience that we have. Hey, if you are willing to pay the buyer agent, you're going to get more buyers. By the way, we have all kinds of marketing pieces on that you can go to. If you go to layeragentservices.com, but then click on NAR settlement resources, we have articles, we have marketing pieces that explain all this so that you can include it as part of your listing presentation as to why the seller may want to consider paying for the buyer agent fee. Number 8, objections. By the way, within the Algor-WIN book on page 76, we have some common objections, such as the seller wants to price it for more than what it's the value is coming in at. Please note this: anytime an objection comes up, that's an opportunity for you to build a better presentation. Anytime an objection comes up, after you've overcome the objection, you should go back to your listing presentation and add a slide that addresses that specific objection so that you don't get it again in the future. When you have a really thorough, super thorough listing presentation, by the end, there is no objection. You've already covered everything within that. And by the way, if you need help with objection handling, I had an agent emailed me the other day and say, is there somebody within the company that would be willing to role play objections with me for a listing? I said, I'm positive we could find you somebody, but they're not going to be as good as using ChatGPT. ChatGPT will come up with you basically go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm going to be a real estate agent and you're a potential home seller. And I want you to come up with every possible objection as to why you might want to list with somebody else. What's also cool about it is it has a voice option that you can have ChatGPT on and be driving around and doing your objection handling while you're driving around heading to appointments. Let ChatGPT do all of your objection handling dialogues with you. And then last but not least, the seller appointment checklist is the follow-up and thank you. I think it's a good idea after you've done the presentation, like after all the dust settles and the seller's thinking things over, you don't quite have the listing yet, to show up with a small gift, and the gift is a plant. So I think it's nice just to show up and say, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to do the listing. It is really important when you show up with your plant to think about your intent. The intent when you show up at the seller's door is not to get the listing, because that could be not great intent, that you're trying to manipulate somebody because you want the listing. That is not good intent, and you're infusing the transaction with bad intent. So I want you to be cognizant when you pick up the plant that you're going to deliver, that you look at the plant and say, I am so thankful that this homeowner gave me the opportunity to perfect my presentation and perfect my skills. And I am so thankful just for the opportunity to get that appointment. And then you show up and you say the same exact thing to your seller. I just want to say I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to sit with you, and I'm always thankful whenever I get the opportunity to further perfect my presentation and my skills. And for this, I am extremely thankful. So don't make it about like, hey, I'm going to manipulate this person and I'm going to deliver a plant, because then they're going to feel bad if they don't list with me. If you go in with that mindset and that intent, you have just like wiped out all the good intent, all the good vibration that you have put into your transaction thus far. And with that, of course, we're running over because we always run over, but I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any. Let's see, I have to figure out how to stop sharing. There we go. Okay. Any questions? I can't tell Sergio if anybody's got anything.
I don't see. Well, we have someone. Hold on. Let me move some windows around. We have Lindsay Finale from Wellington. She's actually from Century 21. Just saying, she's in the comments. Just chiming in, saying that she's been having a great experience.
Thank you. Found it. I was able to find the chat messages. So thank you,
Awesome.
Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay, so much for following up and for being part of our Algor-WIN class each week. So hopefully you guys are all getting some good content out of it. When I created the Algor-WIN program, I wanted it to be like the perfect system. And that's why I make little changes when I tweak the presentation the weekend before. So usually the weekend before these Monday calls, I spend about 7 or 8 hours really focusing. That's why, and then creating additional pieces, working with our marketing department to add stuff that we think could make your life easier as you're showing value. So, I'm super thankful for you guys. Oh, we got Mila. Mila always has something.
Actually, I do not, but since nobody has anything, I want to say a huge thank you. I did have a couple takeouts today, like ChatGPT use as a partner. Like I never even thought about it, although Farah always points out that ChatGPT is number one your tool these days.
Yes.
And I did like that having conversation with your plant before you actually bring it to the
Yes. That's awesome. So we're gonna have lots of agents going out buying plants, talking to the plants before they head out and deliver them. But it is really important because I can't stress enough that when stuff does not go right, because I see it all the time, real estate agents that do all the right things seem to do all the right things in their business, but they don't get the results they should get. It's always an energy misalignment, and it could be something as little as that plant. That, hey, I showed up with a plant because I felt like the person has to list with me if I bring this gift. So we have to be super cognizant of the energy we put out in the world, our words, our intent. It all has to be good in order to infuse good energy into our transactions. So with that, I'm super excited. Next week, we will be focusing on an actual listing. So we'll go through the 9-step process for new listings. Thank you, everyone, for another great week.